All right, Rachel, thank you. The Office of the Child Advocate released a report showing multiple children have died from fentanyl between 2019 and 2022. The study examined about 100 unnatural cause deaths, and 8 of those deaths were due to fentanyl. The children who died ranged from 4 weeks to 27 months old. So joining me now to take a more in-depth look at preventable infant and toddler deaths in Connecticut is State Child Advocate Sarah Egan. Sarah, thank you for joining us here. And this report details a couple of problems, one new and one old. So let's talk about both. What are they?
So the first tragedy that we want to talk about is the new phenomenon in child fatality, which is, as you said, this death by children, some as young as 6 weeks old, from fentanyl intoxication. And that's something, 5 years ago, the state didn't see any deaths of young children from fentanyl intoxication. So this is a new phenomenon in child fatalities seen around the country, but now also seen in Connecticut.
Are there any indications in the report as to how children are being exposed to fentanyl or ingesting it?
So I know we don't have the report in front of us, but one of the most important, I think, pictures in the report shows you a penny with a teeny tiny bit of fentanyl next to it, which is an amount that is lethal for an adult. So if it's just grains that can be lethal to an adult, then any kind of even microscopic exposure to a very young child, imagine a child as young as 6 weeks old, 12 weeks old, can be fatal.
And even just getting on the skin, it doesn't have to be ingested, does it?
Well, the medical examiner hasn't made definitive determinations as to the mechanism of injury, though they have said that breastfeeding is not the mechanism of injury, which we think is important for folks to know. Some hospital providers have talked to us about inadvertent exposure through utensils, through items that may be used to mix water, that's also used to make formula. And it's these types of inadvertent exposures that I think folks suspect is the cause in a majority of these cases, where no one intends harm, and yet irreversible harm is done.
So let's talk about the other one, and it's concerning because of all of the effort that's gone into educating parents, and that is unsafe sleeping deaths, we call them. Talk about that.
Correct. So the largest number of deaths of children in the state of Connecticut, year in, year out, are actually deaths of very young infants that we attribute to what we call unsafe sleep environment. And what that means is children, not very young children, infants, sleeping in an environment not what's recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. So American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that infants, very young infants, sleep in their own crib or bassinet on their backs with nothing else in the crib space, no blankets, no pillows, and in the same room or vicinity as their caregiver. Almost all of the infant deaths that we see that aren't attributed to fentanyl intoxication or some other harm there are environmental or safe sleep risk factors in the child's environment.
Which we've been talking about for a long time, and yet it's still happening in both cases here, the fentanyl and the unsafe sleep. What can the state do to help here?
Well, let's talk about fentanyl first. Number one, things we know are saving children's lives is the administration of naloxone by first responders to infants and toddlers in distress or infants who are suboptimally responsive. So getting naloxone out there, getting into communities, getting it to first responders, training folks at administering Narcan or naloxone to infants is safe, is saving lives. We see that all the time. Providing more and more treatment opportunities, not just for individuals, but for individuals who have children, pregnant and parenting individuals, giving them safe places to get and stay sober and get in a path to recovery, educating adults and adult-serving agencies and others about the harms of fentanyl exposure to children, and of course ensuring that children always have a safe, sober, reliable caregiver in their household to make sure their needs are met.
And in the other case, it's got to still be about doubling down efforts to educate parents on that one too.
So absolutely, education to parents and caregivers about what a safe sleep environment is so important. And I'd add to that increasing supports for caregivers, increasing access to health care, nutrition supports, child care supports. New parents are exhausted, and researchers at this point are really recommending that this is an area as much about support and services as it is about education. There's a reason exhausted parents bring their infant into bed with them, and we have to get at some of those support needs as well.
All right, Sarah Egan, State Child Advocate, we thank you for joining us here, and I don't get to do this very often, so Sarah, thank you. Sarah, back to you.